Hello and welcome back to Wealth and Wisdom. I am Kenny Polcari, your host, and I am back again today with Sean Brodrick. Now, you guys know Sean Brodrick, right? He is the Indiana Jones of natural resources, and he is a well-known personality and, shall I say, commodity here at Weiss Ratings. And today we're going to talk all about Resource Trader, which is one of Sean's publications, right? But we're remaking it here, right? We're adding cannabis into the source at Resource Trader, Sean. So I'm excited to talk about that, but I'm also excited to talk about some of the other commodity names that are in there. So why don't you say hello and just remind our subscribers on, what Resource Trader is and where you find your ideas and what's exciting today.
Sure. Well, Resource Trader, we trade stocks primarily, though we also do options from time to time. Right. And so we do pretty much all the commodities because we are in a commodity super cycle. I mean, right. Things are really picking up. So we do oil and gas. We've had great success with that this year. Even though stocks generally have been moving down since the end of last year, oil and gas has actually been doing very well.
Listen, oil and gas is up 47. The XLE is up 47% year to date. And that's on a day when the market's down 800 points after the CPI figure.
Right. Well, we have taken some gains too early, but we still have plenty of great positions and stuff like that. And we add on weakness. So that's good. We also do mining shares, whether it's gold, silver, copper, stuff like that. We took some great copper gains earlier this year. Right. And pretty much anything along those lines. We try to get into different areas of the commodity market, and especially those stocks leveraged to commodities before the rest of the Wall Street pack. That's right. Pretty much what we're aiming to do.
Right. And I got to tell you, because you made this statement, and I just want to clarify it, because when you said, we took some gains a little bit too early, guess what? When you take a gain, you take a gain. There's nothing wrong with that. There are bulls, bears, and pigs. And in this case, you took a gain. If it was a little premature, that's fine, but it's still a gain, and that's the bottom line. Right.
Always be taking profits. Yes.
That's right. Wasn't like you took a loss, you took a gain. And so to there, I would credit you, because I think you do an outstanding job. I love your analysis. I love your style. I love the way you talk about it. Let me ask you a question, though, when you talk about commodities, because you talked about gold and silver, you talked about lithium. We've talked about that before. You've talked about oil and gas. Are you also trading other commodities like sugar or coffee, or is that those commodities, lumber? You stay away from that.
Well, actually, we have a stock that's leveraged to lumber, and we have a couple of positions that are leveraged to food. They're not doing that great right now, but I have great hopes for them going forward, because we keep hearing about how the global supply and demand of certain agricultural goods are actually really going to tighten up this year. Right. So, that will take some time. If we do things like sugar and other stuff like that, we primarily use ETNs, that is exchange traded notes. They're like ETFs, but they're for commodities. So we primarily use those. Then again, sometimes if they're liquid enough, and this is very important, sometimes we'll trade options, because you can get more bang for your buck out of that.
All right. Well, one of the things that's new to Resource Trader, and it is a commodity, and I'm very excited to talk about it, because the space is exploding. It has exploded. It is exploding. Is cannabis, right? Otherwise known as marijuana. And you're adding that now to the Resource Trader, right? And the essence of this commodity is not that it can just be grown and mined, but it's actually a functional product, right? Because they're using marijuana in cosmetics and beverages and workout products and massage oils and all this stuff where you can use cannabis, right? And so there's a long list of items. But tell me, because I understand you've got 3 or 4 racehorses in that space that I want to talk about. I think that you want to talk about.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Cannabis stocks as a whole have been in a bear market since early last year. Right. And so it's been actually a very tough market to trade. However, they seem to have bottomed in June. So they've been compressed all the way down, and they're just starting to actually come back. And in the meantime, the underlying fundamentals of the business are so good. I mean, across the industry, sales soared to $27 billion last year. That was up 35% from the year before. We have more than 400,000 Americans now working in cannabis. And that means, more than, say, paramedics or electrical engineers and stuff like that. We have seen 27 states legalize medical marijuana and 11 states legalize adult use of cannabis, but there's a lot more opportunity to come. You can see how we've just hit kind of a roadblock in, say, federal legalization, but most people expect that to change next year. And so when that does, there'll be incredible profit opportunities. So we just want to get in ahead of that.
Let me ask you a question, because this goes right to the very basics. I remember when it first started, this was the issue. Are cannabis companies, because you can now walk into in certain states, you can walk in and buy it, right? You can just buy recreational use or marijuana use, right? Medical use. But
I did that Monday, yeah.
Okay, but here was the issue. The issue is, are banks, can cannabis companies have a banking relationship? Because wasn't that an issue when it first started? They didn't want to have anything to do with it?
And they still don't. That's one of the things that's been logjammed in Congress for various reasons. And it is funny because you see people on both sides of the aisle trying to push this things forward. And yet for some reason or other, they can't get traction. But actually allowing banks to work with cannabis companies is a separate issue, and it might pass before full legalization. So that's something else that would really help a lot. Right now, as profitable as some of them are, many aren't profitable, but as profitable as some of them are, it's crazy how many financial handicaps they have on them. If these laws could change, it would just change the game for these.
Is it any different than a bank dealing with a liquor company, with the alcohol company?
Not in my mind, but apparently to Mitch McConnell, it does.
I think it's so unbelievable, because when you talk about, what's the issue, it's mind-boggling to think that industry, like you said, is dealing with so many obstacles, yet they continue to make headway. And like you said, there are 27 states, and there's 11 more states that are on the list to legalize the adult use of cannabis. And, like I said, in a range of products. I think one of the most interesting things that I find is that, you can walk into the local, walk into the CVS like that, and they have it right there on the counter. And it's, it's cannabis oil that you might use if you got a pain in your arm or a pain in your leg. You massage your leg with the oil, and the cannabis is supposed to somehow relieve the pain.
Well, I think at CVS you'll find CBD, which is which can come from cannabis, but it also can come from hemp. But in fact, I use that on like one of my knees because it's an anti-inflammatory.
That's right.
As you get older, get the old white beard going there. You have to deal with the fact that your knees don't work the way they used to. So
So then clarify that, because then I obviously made a mistake. Because CBD, in fact, is a different product than cannabis. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. It's legal in most states, not all states, by the way. But so that really sets off much fewer red flags. We have this big issue to deal with, federal legalization of like a THC, because it's a class 1 drug now, which means the same as heroin. That freaks everybody out. Of course, no banks want to work with that. So we need that to change on the federal level. CBD is a completely different animal. And so you can get that from hemp. So that's like a whole nother thing.
So then your 3 racehorses of reefer that we want to talk about, are we talking about CBD or are we talking about cannabis?
Well, I'm sure that many of them sell CBD, but it's not what they're known for. So I just have the 3 best U.S. MSOs. MSOs means multi-state operator. In other words, they have operations in a whole bunch of like different states. And the U.S., because of our crazy federal laws, the way these companies had to set up is they have to go from farm all the way to retail in each individual state. They can't ship across state lines. This actually builds up a very resilient business. And, sometimes things work out in one state, not in another. Just to give you an example, one of my picks in that would be Curaleaf. It has a market cap of 4.25 billion. That makes it twice the size of its nearest competitor. So this is the largest U.S. MSO, as I said, multi-state operator, and it has 134 dispensaries. It's in 22 states, and it's adjusting. It's like how it works. For example, to no one's surprise, California has way too much red tape, right? So much red tape that it's very hard for a legitimate cannabis company to make money there. So right. Curaleaf said, you know what? We're leaving. we're just getting out of California. They right. also got out of Colorado because it's actually too easy to be in the cannabis industry there. So everybody's competing there. So they're concentrating on the places where they can make money. So they're actually doing...
Is Curaleaf a Canadian or U.S.?
Well, it's U.S. It has a listing in Canada, and in the U.S., you can buy it on the OTCQX. And so, what's the highest level of the OTC?
Okay, so what's the symbol in the U.S.?
CURLF.
CURLF. Okay, that's the one, because I'm looking at CURA, which is Curaleaf Canada.
Right, exactly. Okay. And that's where you'll find most of their financial information, as a matter of fact. So I think that they have lots of potential. They aren't making money now. However, in the third quarter, things are really supposed to improve. In the fourth quarter, that's when they're going to start making a lot of money over in Europe because they grow cannabis there and Europe is opening up. And so they should get a big injection of profit potential in Europe in the fourth quarter. So you have that optimism building up in the stock. That's one of the reasons why it's zigzagging higher.
Is Europe ahead of the U.S. in terms of cannabis legalization, or no, are they behind us?
Some parts are, some parts aren't. I mean,
we know Amsterdam is right at the leading edge, right?
Yes, it is. But like someplace like Germany, they're very strict. So, right. So it all depends. They're individual nations. They can do what they want. This is part of the hodgepodge. This is right. Why it is at the same time so frustrating, and yet there's so much opportunity because it's so frustrating. Many of the big boys don't want to play in this yet. So you can actually get ahead of them on that one.
Right. So Curaleaf, CURLF, which trades at $5.80 here, it's down 10 cents today. You think, because I'm looking at it on the chart, right? I mean, back in October of 21, it was a $12, $13 stock. $12.50 stock. So it's basically lost 50% of its value over the last year.
Yeah. Right. Like I said, there was a huge bear market, which didn't bottom until June. Right. So these things got crushed. They got all the excess value crushed out of them. In the meantime, their underlying businesses are improving. So you look at that kind of disconnect, there's some real upside.
Yeah, no, and you can see exactly, you're right. You can see if you look at the June, July period, you can see where it bottomed and it kind of built a base. And I'm looking just at Curaleaf and how it started, now. It's challenging its trend lines. It's now above the two trend lines. It's got its 200-day moving average, which it has to get through in order to really make events. Okay, what's another one?
Another one would be Cresco Labs. That's a CRLBF in the US. And that's all over the place. It's like 18 U.S. markets, 50 operating retail locations. And it's really big in Illinois. And as it turns out, people in Chicago love their reefer. So, that's good for them. And in March, Cresco made a deal to acquire another MSO called Columbia Care. And so that's going to create one of the largest U.S. multi-state cannabis operators with more than 18 state markets, well over 100 stores and stuff, and free cash flow should turn positive in the third quarter. So again, it's not making money yet. There are other ones. In fact, the third one that I want to tell you about really does make money right now, which is great. But this is one where there's lots of opportunity because you can see the shift coming, how it's moving from trying to build its business to actually being profitable. And
right. So you can see this one. This one mimics the chart is the same. It made its high back October, November of 21. It now lost 50% of its value, traded down to almost $2.50, $3 maybe, and it has since rallied off the June, July lows and is trading back at 351. Again, it's hugging its trend lines and attempting to move higher. But I want to know the one that's actually making money.
All right. This one has a funny name, but a great business. It's called Green Thumb Industries, and the symbol there is GTBIF. And it's smaller than the others. It operates in 15 states, and but it has the best cash flow of any major U.S. multi-state operator. It made $148 million in like the last 12 months.
It's an $11 stock.
Yeah, that was up nearly 40% year over year, by the way. And it's actually profitable. It's should make 35 cents per share this year, 49 cents per share next year. Of course, legalization can impact this hugely, right? And but part of the secret of its success is, like these other companies, it took every penny it had and like put that into building out operations. Now it's finally reached the point where it says, you know what, we don't have to build so much. And so it won't be spending so much on the build out. And so it'll have more money to give back to shareholders.
This one says in its description on Bloomberg, it says it operates as a pharmaceutical company.
Well, I mean, Bloomberg isn't any more interested in these stocks than the big investors, you know.
Well, because
this is a cannabis stock,
right? It goes on to say the company manufactures and distributes medical marijuana and cannabis products. That's
right. Yeah.
So if that's the pharmaceutical, then that's
right. Honestly, I mean, we are really early stages. Think of when like all the Sooners went into Oklahoma, you know, and just everybody's on the border waiting to go in, but the big guys are holding back. They know they'll come in later with big amounts of money and scoop up the best ones. But now's a chance for, you know, smaller investors to actually stake their claim and actually do, I believe, pretty well.
And so those three are what you would consider your racehorses. Is that right? Would you?
Yeah. I have more, but those are three good ones. Yes.
If you had to put those in some kind of an order, would you put Green? I'm guessing Green Thumb would be your top choice.
Well, they're all about the same, really. In fact, I took half gains on Cresco Labs because it soared up so much at once. I said something's going on, and now we still have the rest of it, and I'm happy to own it. So I think, you know, individual things will move these companies around. What's probably going to make the difference in them going forward this year and beyond is what deals they make.
Right.
Because as individual companies, they're all still small. There's tremendous room for growth, either through organic growth or else doing mergers and like that kind of stuff. And as long as they have deep pockets, and all these companies do have deep pockets, then I believe they all should do very well.
Right. So I'm laughing just because the way that Bloomberg describes Cresco Labs is it cultivates and processes cannabis products. It says nothing about being a pharmaceutical company. It goes right to the point. It says, here's what we do. The other one, Green Thumb, tried to hide behind the pharmaceutical company moniker, which I find very interesting. But listen, I like all three names. I like the space. I do think that there's huge opportunity, but these are small names, right? Small market cap stocks, these are.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
They're not inexpensive. They, the two of them are $3 stocks, and the Green Thumb's an $11 number. But they look like they're setting up very nicely on the charts, right? They've all got the same kind of the same chart pattern, right? They've all come down off their highs last fall, a year ago. Have all appear as if they bottomed out in June, July, like you said, and they've all started now to challenge trendline resistance levels now. So I think that's very interesting.
Well, I think you'll see them zigzag higher, depending, and probably because we'll see more action in like Washington, D.C. Cannabis legalization is a winner. Most Americans approve of cannabis.
Yes.
And so politicians like to do things that people like that won't cost them any money.
Yes.
And so, we'll probably see some sort of cannabis legalization, certainly banking for cannabis next year,
Yeah. It's interesting because, there's so many ways to do it now. It's not just smoking a joint or, there are gummies and there are chocolates and there are ways to do it. And I know a fair amount of people that suffer from, anxiety or nervousness. And, they take these cannabis gummies and they, it really relaxes them. It changes their whole kind of personality, not in a bad way. It just relaxes them. It makes them less anxious. And I think people that suffer from Parkinson's as well, use cannabis products. I'm not sure.
Well, I was just going to mention, we don't really know what it does because for decades, and even still now, it's illegal in the US to do research on cannabis because it's a Schedule I drug. Now, in places like, say, Israel, you can do research on it, but they've only started that recently. There's so much to learn about what these substances can do. We don't really know at this point.
But you know what? That almost makes no sense because it's what do you say? What kind of a drug is it? A number one drug?
It is a Schedule I drug, just like heroin.
Yeah. Okay, but you would think because it's a Schedule I drug that they'd want to do research so they understand it.
Well, don't expect me to explain how government makes sense because honestly, I do not. That's beyond my capabilities.
All right, so listen, I love that conversation, but let's move on to some of your other winning trades. I think in the energy space, you got a couple going on right now.
Yeah. Would you like to hear about open trades or closed trades?
Let's hear about the open ones because those are the ones that are most important to this group because a lot of the subscribers are in them. They follow you, so they like to hear you talk about them and hear your, kind of what you're thinking at the moment now.
Okay, well, the theme we'll take today will be energy. I have a couple of great energy trades that we have that are ramping up nicely. One is Ovintiv. Most people haven't heard of it, but it's one of the largest producers of oil and natural gas in North America. And
OVV? OVV.
OVV. It has a market cap of $8.8 billion. And that company is like forecasting 35% free cash flow yield in fiscal 2023. Their calendar is not quite the annual calendar, so it's like ahead of time and stuff like that. So, but their earnings rose 1,300% last year. They're projected to rise another 129% this year, and it's actually spending more on exploration, unlike many oil producers. So that's one more reason that I like them. And they're able to control their costs well, which is really, really nice. They plan to return 50% of free cash flow after the base dividend to its shareholders. So we can look forward to special dividends or maybe raising the dividend, stuff like that.
Its dividend yield now is nearly 2%. It's 1.9%.
Yeah. And so it'll be interesting to see what they do in the future. I think that they have a great road ahead of them. They are a dividend raiser. And if people read my Wealth Mega Trends, which is my monthly newsletter, I have a great chart in there showing how stocks that pay and raise dividends outperform in a high inflation environment, which we are in right now.
Yeah, so that's funny. I've never heard of this. I've never heard of this stock. OVV.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm glad you haven't, because now, like many people, you can find out about it. And I think the more people know about this, the more people will buy it. So it'll work out really well for our subscribers.
Yeah. They're due to report November 2nd, just so everyone knows.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your next one?
The next one is Tenaris. The symbol there is TS. And it's not an oil company, but it makes the pipes that oil companies use in their new wells. And here's something people don't know. The hottest commodity in the oil industry right now isn't crude, it isn't gasoline, it isn't jet fuel, it's drill pipe. The benchmark price for drill pipe has surged 90% in the past year.
Why?
They can't get enough of it because, there's like all these new wells people want to drill and stuff, and there's a really limited supply. And this company, Tenaris, is the largest producer of oil country tubular goods. That's OCTG in the U.S. market. It does 1 million tons annually, and it's expanding its U.S. operations. It just bought a new facility on the cheap, and so business is booming, and it also is in international markets. So all that gives this company incredible earnings growth. Earnings jumped 844% in the first quarter. They increased another 116% in the second quarter. For the year, earnings are projected to rise 36%. But you know what? It keeps beating earnings, so I'd expect an upside surprise there.
Listen, two things. A, where's this company located? Because this is not a U.S. company.
It is the largest maker of this pipe in the U.S., and so it has more than one production facility in the U.S., and it just bought a new one in Louisiana.
Right, but when you hit up the symbol TS, it comes up as an ADR.
Yeah. But I mean, it's still a fine company.
No. I'm not suggesting it's not a fine company. What I'm saying is that as an ADR, that means the mother market is somewhere else. Is it a European company?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
It's also pays, by the way, nearly a 4% dividend. It's a 3.9% dividend yield.
Yeah. And the actual name is Tenaris SA. So yeah, that's
right.
So it's headquartered in
Luxembourg.
Luxembourg, which is funny. Most people think tiny little country.
Right.
You'd be amazed how many energy companies are actually headquartered there. It's all because of tax things.
I was just going to say it has to be a tax thing, right?
Yeah.
But, you look at it again, I'm looking at this one on the chart. It looks really, really nice. It is set. It has, it sold off, came up through all trend line resistance. It's now hugging its final trend line resistance. So it's one to keep our eyes on. Okay. What's another one?
I thought I wouldn't talk about everything we have open now, but I thought I would give you just a couple we have closed because we can think about that.
Give us a closed one.
Well, these are closed ones that we closed, and as I was saying earlier, maybe closed too early, so I might be going back to them again.
Okay.
That's why I just wanted to raise them here.
Let's go.
One would be Marathon Oil, right? I mean, everybody knows it, but look at a chart of that thing. It looks great. It's an independent exploration and production company, operates primarily in the U.S., also Equatorial Guinea, but it's in the big four U.S. shale basins. It's in the Bakken, the Stack and the Scoop in Oklahoma, the Permian, Eagle Ford, and so it produces 50% oil, 50% natural gas, and so that means it's exposed to both markets, which have been incredibly volatile, but very profitable. And we exited with a gain of more than 60% in June, probably too soon, but I expect we'll be buying that one again.
Okay, listen to yourself. You exited with a 60% profit. Don't go beating yourself up. Are you kidding me?
I know.
Who wouldn't kill for 60% profit?
I know, especially when most stocks were going down. That's actually why we sold. I said this has to affect energy stocks at some point. And actually, it did go down after that. But
right. So you made the right call. Stop beating yourself up. I think that's great.
The other one would be Tech Resources, and the reason I like this is because it's a miner, but it produces coal, copper, and zinc. And so you've seen what happened with coal and stuff, right? It's just crazy.
Yeah, but what's the symbol for this one?
That is TECK.
TECK. Okay.
And I think that there's a big move coming higher in copper, and I really want to be leveraged to that one way or another. Tech would be a good choice to do that because as a mix of what it produces, it's actually not a lot of copper now, but it's going to become more copper. So since copper is going to become a bigger part of its mix, that might be one reason why we want to revisit this company or else buy another copper producer that could really ride that. Because here's the funny thing is that there have been fears of a global recession and that knocked the price of copper down quite a bit. But the most recent numbers out of China show that over this year, Chinese imports of copper have actually gone up. They're importing less oil, they're importing less iron, but they're importing more copper. That tells me that maybe the economy there is a bit stronger than some people thought. Now, it could be partly due to electric vehicles, but it has to be more than that. Electric vehicles are a small slice of the pie. And so I'm just looking around and also looking at the supply situation, there are troubles in Chile and stuff like that. So I think copper could have a good rest of the year. So that's one thing that I want to position in soon. Could be tech. It could be something else. We exited that in April and May. It was a while ago for 39 and 42% gains, I think. So, that's one I'd like to go back to the well and get some more gains out of it.
Dude, 39, 42% gains. Don't be too hard on yourself. Listen, that one also, just so the subscribers understand, that's due to report on October 27th, and that also pays a 1.1 1% dividend yield, and their 5-year net dividend growth is 42%.
Yeah. So those are the kinds of things we're looking at. We have a lot of oil stocks now, or I should say oil and gas. Yeah. And, just because they've held up so well, we have some good precious metals stocks. And I do believe we are about to enter a very virtuous cycle in gold. I mean, it's been moving sideways for 2 years. It went up for 2 years before that. I think the next move is up for 2 years. And so I really want to be positioned for that. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff we like. And now we're adding in cannabis simply because of the massive potential next year, I think. So you put those things together, that's kind of what we're doing with this publication.
Right. I think that's great. Listen, Sean, as always, it's a thrill for me to talk to you just because I love talking to you. I love your take on Resource Trader and all the different facets. And now, because we're adding cannabis to the loop, I think there's going to be lots more to talk about. So you gave us some great ideas, some great names. You pointed out some really, really significant trades and the potential for some good trades. So I know the subscribers will appreciate that. So, Sean, once again, it's a pleasure, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Hey, it's always good to talk to you, Kenny. Thanks very much.